Uh-oh, I just lost you.
Yep.
Anyway, I'll wait till there we go. All right. So welcome to another episode of Pay Me No Mind. My name is Wood. Before I get started, I wanna just lay some ground rules and whatnot. But so we're doing the live stream over here, but I also take these episodes and turn them into an audio only podcast called It's Always Personal. You can find it on Apple Podcasts. You can find it on Google Podcasts, and you can find it on Spotify and a couple other places. Anchor.com is another place. So this will be made available in those, in an audio only podcast after this. I have about 9 or 10 questions for my guests. We'll run into those. And then I also, I can have some people call in. I'll throw that number up after I get through my questions. Feel free to put some in that section. If I can work any of those in, I'll get to those as well. And so with that said, I'll be recording this here, and then I'll also be recording the audio version. And like I said, later on this week, maybe tomorrow night, that audio podcast might be up. You can find links to it. My guests will have the links, so on and so forth. So anyway, like I said, my name is Wood. Appreciate you guys for joining me. I'm very eager to get into this discussion, and just honored to have a longtime friend and he's a good dude and a great topic to discuss. So without further ado, I want to welcome in Pastor Steve Sauce.
Family, what's going on? I'm honored to be here. Man.
You're breaking up just a little bit, so I'm gonna try to work with you on and if your mic does get messed up, your sound and whatnot.
Okay,
so
forgive me.
I told you.
Been between daddy duties already, so forgive me. I ain't in my office tonight.
Gotcha. So I want to start out. Icebreaker questions, man. Last movie that you watched?
Last movie, Coming to America 2.
Okay, you like it?
America 2.
Favorite movie of all time?
Favorite movie? That's a hard one, man. Favorite movie of all time.
Or movie scene?
Let me give you two. The movie scene.
Either
you
or.
Just messing me up. Let me give you my 3 favorite movies for different reasons. I know that ain't the rule. Number 1, I would say Troy because of the mentality of a warrior. Number 2, I would say Black Panther because it I believe it showed the 2 sides of my personality with T'Challa and then Killmonger. And then number 3, Menace to Society, just because I'm a 70s baby and that's where it was.
I think you were saying Menace to Society.
Menace to Society, because I'm a 70s baby, and that was the classic of my era.
Okay. Favorite athlete?
Favorite athlete of all time or favorite athlete currently?
Just your favorite athlete.
My favorite athlete is Muhammad Ali.
Good one. What would be your walkout music if you were going into the ring or into the cage? I know you're a wrestler. What would be your walkout music?
All we do is win. Ain't that what it's called? Win, win, win.
Your guess is as good as mine. I know what you're talking about, but I think what's that? I can't even remember my man's name. T-Pain or something.
I don't know either. I just know that's how I feel whenever I'm about to compete.
Got you. Last one, man. Best lesson that you've learned about being the man of your house or the man of the house.
That being the man, with being the man comes being responsible. There's nothing that you can do or bring to the table that would alleviate you from responsibility. That would
Well
be the
said,
that
well said. So with that said, man, so that's a segue into what we're gonna get into. We're talking about Steve's new book, as you can see right here. Let me get that in there all the way. The Fatherless Son. This came out in December, right?
Actually, it was released on my birthday, January 9th.
Oh, okay. January 9th. Okay. First of all, man, congratulations. As a longtime friend, I'm proud of you, and
Thank you, man.
I got it last week, read it. It's a page turner, and I just commend you for mining all of this stuff out of yourself and sharing it with people. And I hope some people read it, take it to heart, and you get on your way with your mission and what you're trying to do with this. So salute to you on that. With that said, looking back to me and you cross paths, in 99, 2000. What's a more surprising title for you here in 2021? Author or pastor?
I guess I'm gonna break rules tonight. Let me say both. I'm gonna say both for these reasons. I'm gonna say both for these reasons because growing up, I hated reading. I hated everything about education. I didn't want nothing to do with it. So who would have ever thought I would be writing a book? And then number two, pastor, because the way that I was raised, that was never something I even considered as a possibility for me.
Okay.
So man, my bad for breaking rules, but
okay. I'm just putting this last little chat out here real quick. There we go. So all this time, and I know we've talked about a million things: Ohio State, Michigan, the Bengals, movies, etc., etc. The Bible, God, church, wives, a lot of stuff, a lot of personal stuff that I didn't even mention right there. But I don't when I got into reading the book, man, I realized I don't think I'm assuming we did, but I don't recall ever asking you about your father, man. So after getting through the first chapter or so, I couldn't help but wonder, was there any relationship between you and your biological father?
don't know him, never met him. My mama don't even know his real name. I was basically I was the fruit of an older man taking advantage of a young naive girl, and I wouldn't know him if he was standing right in front of me.
Wow, that's pretty tough. So no relationships with his family, anything about him altogether?
Nothing that I even know about him. The few details that I even know about him are perceivably false in the first place. So really, there's no real way outside of a miracle of me even finding him or his side of the family or any of that. And that kind of caused a problem. I won't say a problem, but it created a behavior in me from a child all the way up to even today. Sometime I'll find myself looking in the face of older men like, man, trying to wonder if, man, I wonder if he could be it, or he got my nose, or he got hair like me. And so, yeah, man, there's no relationship, no fellowship, no knowledge, no nothing.
Got you. Wow. I mean, early in the book, man, just your description of becoming aware of you being fatherless, and then noticing that it was commonplace amongst your friends neighborhood. I know you described and broke all that down in the book, man, but just what's your takeaway looking at that as, that being your reality very early on? No men involved, no men involved in the picture.
Honestly, I believe that lack actually pushed me in some of the directions that I went in. And I would bet my last dollar that that's the story of a lot of young men, especially in urban environments, but in the world in general. For example, I resented my own family structure. I resented, the way my life was set up. My sister's father was um, kind of involved, and every now and then he would come and pick her up and leave me. And that kind of sent a message to me, like, man, like, everybody got somebody that can come and save them at least every now and then, but me, I'm out here on my own. And this was the mentality that I had as a young boy. And so because I resented my own family structure, it pushed me to developing a new family structure where the streets and my friends, those those relationships became my family. And it was just as real of a family relationship as my blood family. And I believe that I was susceptible to that because of the lack of, a father in the home.
So knowing what you know now, all the years that you've been involved in the leadership of church, now here, being a pastor of your own church and whatnot, what do you attribute? Well, have you seen any improvement from back then to now with fathers being in the home?
I would say I have seen improvement. I think, you know, um, I think every generation at some point has an awakening kind of experience, and in one of those areas where I believe people have become more sensitive and more you know just giving more attention to is that fatherless experience. And so I do believe that there has been improvement. um, Not to take away from the fact that it's still a major problem. But in my services, not only in the church, but in the community and in all of the other spheres of influence that I've traveled, I personally believe that we're not as bad off as it seems. I know of a lot of young men, and I still consider myself to be young. I'm 42. I know a lot of young men my age and younger that are active fathers, that are very involved, that wouldn't change that for the world. And I think sometimes because of the overarching narrative, we don't get that credit. It's almost like we don't exist. So we're not as bad off as it seems. Um, it's still a real problem. And at the same time, I do think that progress is being made. When men give themselves to be mentors and big brothers, and that coach to player relationship, graduates from off the court into real life. I think those types of experiences and environments are what is pushing the envelope for fathers to be more active and sons and daughters to be, given that attention that they need.
So are you optimistic moving forward? Like I feel like some of these last couple of generations that a lot of us men had to figure out what manhood was by any means necessary. And I think that was stifling a lot of progress. But like you said, with younger men seemingly doing a better job in this area, could we? It seems like we could start to eliminate the need for future generations, like I said, to waste time in their life figuring out what the definition of a man is and what kind of man I want to be. And if that's eliminated or shortened greatly, it seems like we can start improving things moving forward. Are you optimistic about that type of transformation?
I'm always optimistic. That's just the way I'm built at my core. I'm always seeing the possibility. You know, yeah, I'm optimistic, definitely. Um, we have done and will continue to do a lot of good work. But here's the reality: we are who we waiting on. You know, there's not a savior that's coming to fix it. We can't depend on Republicans or Democrats, left wing, right wing. They all connected to the same bird, as far as I'm concerned. We are who we waiting on, and as long as we take the responsibility to do something, whatever your something is, because all of us can't do the same thing, but as long as we take responsibility to do something, I think we're planting seeds that will grow trees we won't get to eat from. And the world will be better after we gone because of it. You're doing something, for example, might be just having this conversation, just allowing this to be on your platform. That's planting seeds. You don't know whose ears it might touch, whose heart it might reach, you know. So as long as everybody is committed to doing something, yeah, man, I'm optimistic. We can, and we will, and we have done something to make this problem better.
Gotcha. Uh, when our paths intersected, like I said, back in '99 or '98, whatever it was, when I met you, you were the only male in a all female beauty shop. And as I was getting into the book, The Fatherless Son, I was wondering, was you being there a byproduct of some of the issues that you mentioned early in the earlier chapters of the book concerning your relationship and history with men?
Um, I would say the simple answer is no. You know, I cut hair, man, for 30 years. I started in my mama's basement by myself, 10 years old. I had a little bar stool, and I was downstairs in the basement cutting grown men at 10 years old for $2 a haircut. And so I've always been, well, I won't say I've always, but I was used to being in an environment where I carried my own weight. Um, and so I didn't need that barbershop experience at that time. But the more complicated answer to that question is, when I met you at the Bronze Lady, shout out to Miss Angie and Miss Pugh, that shop was in Huber Heights. You know, I was raised in the thick of it, you know, Hilltop to Cincinnati Street, Stewart Street. And so Huber Heights gave me a getaway. It gave me an opportunity to be away from what I was used to, focus on myself, focus on because at that time that was at the beginning of my spiritual journey. You know, I was really just becoming who I would eventually be. And so the main reason I was there is because of that. It gave me an opportunity to be away from what I was used to. But because of my background and because of my upbringing, I was comfortable there. Some men might not be comfortable in that environment. Nothing but women, you know, coming in and out every day. I was comfortable with it because I ain't never really had a man to lean on when I was a child, and I didn't need one at that time either.
So I know we talked about this at that time. What are you taking away in this interaction with, the young men and the men that you were encountering in Huber, which is a suburb of Dayton, Ohio? Um, how were you looking at this? And because we just described what your upbringing was, and you had your uh the vibe that you had with your friends who you grew up with and whatnot in the neighborhood, the values, the culture, all of the stuff that you had over there. Did you actually sit back and observe a lot of this with this group of individuals who you were servicing?
Um, can you can you repeat that? Ask me that question again. I kind of didn't hear some of what you said, and I want to answer you correctly.
Were you observing how basically these suburban people that grew up,
Uh,
a lot differently than you, based on the description in the book, were you observing what was different about them, and how are you interpreting that?
I definitely noticed it immediately. Um, It was definitely noticed it immediately, and I had a few different conflicting emotions. Initially, I was envious because I met a lot of young men my age, younger, and even older at the time, who seemed like they wanted the life I was running from. And I was envious because, when I looked around, I was like, man, it seemed like y'all got the world. Why would you want to give it up for nothing? Give me what you have, and see what I'll become. So I was envious initially, but then at the same time, it it inspired me, because my thought is, because that was my experience, it's selfish and even ignorant to expect everybody to have that same experience. I've heard it said experience is the best teacher. I don't agree with that. I believe experience is the most abusive teacher. It's the most aggressive teacher. It's the most expensive teacher. It's the most unforgiving teacher, but it's not the best teacher. But unfortunately, sometimes it's the only teacher that a fool will listen to. The truth is, the best teacher is to learn from somebody else's mistakes and somebody else's experiences. And so it kind of shifted me, and I lost that envy, and it more inspired me. And I said, I want to create more of what I see here in the community that I come from. And maybe me seeing this was what needed to happen so that I could bring it home.
Okay. I bring this up when we met because and you just hit on it, I think. But when me and you like I said, when we crossed paths, I think you were just kind of getting into the church and maybe had met
Right.
who we started to learn about in the book was your spiritual father. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yep.
So like I said, in reading through this man and walking in your shoes a bit, and then knowing you personally and what we've been discussing, for the past 20 years, man, and then working my way to the middle of the book and getting into the final section of the book, and learning how the relationship played with you and your former pastor. Do you think in sitting down and pulling this book yourself, man, was this a means to forgive that individual?
Um, the simple answer would be yes and no. Um, and I say that because um, I had forgiven him on some levels, but sometimes we don't really know what's in our heart until we start dealing with it. Sometimes we think we've healed from things until we actually start addressing it and find out we have wounds that we didn't even know existed. And so initially, the book had nothing to do with him. It was just he was a part of my story, and I was intending on telling my authentic story. But as I started writing the book, I realized, man, I wrote this book over the course of maybe a couple of years. My initial plan was to release it on my 40th birthday. I didn't get to release it until my 42nd birthday. And it wasn't that the content was so hard to come up with. It was that when I started writing the book, some of the things that I dealt with in the book and some of the areas that I became vulnerable in, um, I didn't realize that I actually hadn't healed from it. And so I found myself at times writing chapters with tears in my eyes, and I couldn't even explain why, because at 40 years old, you couldn't have convinced me that I wasn't healed. And so, it wasn't that I needed to forgive him on the surface. I had forgiven him as far as my awareness was concerned. But as I really got to writing the book, not only did I get the opportunity to forgive him on a deeper level, because sometimes we forgive with expectation for reconciliation. And the truth is, not everybody that you forgive is going to want to reconcile with you. And that is something I had to come to grips with while writing the book as it relates to him. But going past him, the book offered me healing on levels that I didn't even know I needed to heal on. So it was God's will that I write it for my own well-being, for my own healing, so that I could be the best me I could possibly be. But not only that, it was also for the healing of the readers and the individuals who will come in contact with this book, because all of us are broken in some area of our life. And really, this book, it's my story, but it's not unique to me. Really, this book is about experiencing trauma and then responding in a healthy way to that trauma, so you don't get stuck in that trauma. So it's a book that everybody can benefit from, you know.
And I don't want to mess this what I don't know if it's a quote or if it's just a lesson that your way, and like you just said, live a fulfilled life, or just let that situation go and leave it in the past.
I'm sorry, man. I was my connection was breaking up, so I didn't get your question.
I said that word, but I know I that they couldn't pay. But you can go on and do what you need to do and move beyond that relationship.
I caught the end of it where you said me being able to go on and do what I need to do and move on from the relationship. Um, and I'm assuming you're talking about the book giving me the ability to do that.
Yeah.
It definitely did. It was God's exit strategy for me, not only with him, but with my past in general. It was God's exit strategy for me, and and I believe the Lord pre-wounded me in those areas so that I could help minister to other people who might still be wrestling with those things today. You got a lot of grown men and grown women that are suffering through life in their now because of trauma that they went through in their yesterday. And so hopefully this book can allow us to heal so we can actually move on, because some people are getting old but they're not moving on. you know I know people who 40 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old, and they still living, thinking, and acting like they 17, 18, and 19, talking about their glory days, when they were the star point guard or when they was the star rapper, and they're getting older, but they're not moving on.
Exactly. Hey, really quickly, man, I just want to thanks and then actually comment and whatnot joining us tonight. But we have Cicely here. You probably know some of these people. Patrice Smith. She said that the book has inspired me to keep going. So proud of her.
Thank
And so that's a couple people who weighed in, showing you some support and whatnot. So look, one um good thing about the book is that yeah, it is kind of this self-help book in a way. It's inspirational, but then there is kind of like, it's not fiction, but it's this drama that's building as you check in from time to time on what's happening with this relationship between you and your former pastor and spiritual father. And so I'm trying not to I'm really not trying to do any spoilers here for those that haven't
you.
gotten the book, haven't bought the book. But and I don't think I can mess it up, but this is a very important like subplot that's going on, and as you were learning about your battles with fatherlessness and whatnot. So as we get to the end of the book, it really messes me up, and I like I said, I had to step in your shoes and experience it with you when you described this. But how did you process this of what God downloaded your words, quote unquote, downloaded into you regarding the path that you needed to take when you made the move that you needed to make?
Mm-hmm. Honestly, man, I felt that, honestly, I was devastated. And I felt that I was devastated beyond repair. And here's the reason why. I'm very introspective. And so I'm always thinking about things and trying to think about it from every angle. And so here's why it messed me up. I thought about how my father, my biological father, rejected me, and how he essentially didn't want nothing to do with me. And he found out that my mama was pregnant, and she never seen him again. He got ghosted, and he done what he did. And the way that I made sense of that is because I had an issue as a child, and even as an adult at times, internalizing other people's actions. So because of him rejecting the idea of me, I felt maybe there was something wrong with me. And so I processed that in an effort to come out of it. And I made sense of it because I said, well, my biological father never got the chance to meet me. He don't know me. He don't know nothing about me. So it would be easy to reject me if you don't know nothing about me. I think I'm a pretty likable guy. I'm not I'm not any more special or valuable than the next person in God's eyes, but I feel like I'm a pretty special guy. There are some redeemable qualities about me, but he don't know that. So it was easy for him to do it. So I can almost give him a pass. But it was so devastating when my former pastor did, because my thinking was I served him faithfully for just under 17 years. I essentially, in my opinion, grew up in his ministry. I was a young man, but really I was a boy still as far as mentality is concerned. And he knows me. He knows what made me tick. He knows my story. He knows and understands what that trauma did to me, how it affected me. I served him with my gifts and my talents and my passion and my person. He got to watch my character develop. He was intricately involved in helping me to become who I am today. And then you knowing me and you understanding me, at least to some degree, and still reject me. That was the heavier blow for me. It was even heavier than the rejection of my natural father. But it was also me graduating to another level, because the greater your pain, the more impactful your purpose. You know what I'm saying? I don't want a nurse that ain't never been sick. A nurse that ain't never been sick ain't gonna be patient. They gonna move you around, bully you, get these cups. They don't have patience or compassion because they've never been there before. Same way, I don't want to be handled by anybody who has never experienced, if not exactly what I'm going through, if they've never experienced the same type of pain. You know what I'm saying? And so the more pain you've been able to endure, really the more purpose God has in your future. And so that level of rejection, it opened me up in a different way. The scripture says this, and I'm not trying to be a pastor tonight, but I got to say this. The scripture says this, that a broken and a contrite heart, the Lord will not despise. He can't turn from it. Jesus said that I came for the sick. The well don't need a physician. And man, listen, my experience left me broken, contrite, and sick. So sick, I was tired of being sick. And so that put me in a place where only God could help me. And if you can survive that, my God, the stories that you can tell that might cause somebody else to walk back off of that cliff. I tell people all the time, sometimes you don't know it, but some people have committed suicide for less than what you go through every day. That's a redeemable quality to have. That shows endurance. And that means you got something to give the world. So, yeah, I thought I was devastated beyond repair. But honestly, the Lord was just giving me another chapter physically. And he was giving me another chapter in the book. but not only in that book, but in my book of life, because all of us, I say oftentimes, are letters that the world is reading every day. And so that experience had to happen just so that I could, be more useful to the people around me. You can't keep asking me these heavy questions, man, because you got me wanting to talk about it.
Looked like I lost you for a minute. Let me see you come back in, Steve.
Am I
I
back?
lost. Yeah, I lost some of the last part of what you said. But I thought you said some people have committed suicide for less than what you've went through, and that is indicative of your strength or something to
Yeah,
that effect.
yeah. Some people have committed suicide for less than what you go through every day. And so what that means is you obviously still have value that the world needs. And your story is going to literally be what saves somebody's life. Because there's people out here going through hell, man. And if I'm addicted to alcohol, I don't want nobody talking to me that ain't never had a problem with any. If you might not be addicted to alcohol, but you know what addiction feel like, whatever your addiction was. You know what I'm saying? I don't want nobody telling me I can be healed if you ain't never been broken. And so your brokenness, your rejection, and your suffering, all of it is the ingredients that God uses to make you the best person you can be, so that other people can be better because of your experiences.
Got you. Thanks, Cicely White, for letting me know that this is more of my camera that's going and sound that's going in and out.
Okay.
Kenya Cordner said, Pastor Saucer, may God continue to bless you as you continue to walk the path God set before you. The Dayton area loves and appreciates you.
Man, I love y'all back. I love y'all back, and I love y'all back forever and a day. Thank you.
Let me get to this last question of this first half of this. Going through this situation, you're the head of a household. You're a husband to Lorenza.
Yeah.
How does this play out between you and her when you're at this very broken moment? I'm imagining you're in this state for an extended amount of time. How do you and your wife work through this?
Um. Well, here's what I'll say. Um. Your circle got a responsibility, and the people around you are on assignment. Just like you have assignment for them, they have assignment for you. That's why I tell people you got to be very careful who you let into your circle. Because sometimes, you have people close to you, but they're not good for you. Because a parasite is close to its host too. But a parasite is only there to suck out everything it can get until you die. And then they'll move on to the next person. And we got a lot of parasitic friends, parasitic relationships. And I said that to say, my wife is on assignment. I could not have had another woman to be my wife. There's not another woman that could have, let me say this. I could not have survived what I've gone through before her or during the time I've been with her without what she brings to the table and what she adds to me. Um, And so I add value to her, but she adds value to me too. And here's the hard thing, if you're really connected to something or someone, you feel what they feel. You know what I mean? And so my brokenness broke her. Me
Mm,
being hurt her. So she had to not only live with me through that, she had to live that out as well. You know what I'm saying? And she was my voice of reason. She was my prayer warrior. She was my the lifter up of my head. I know we say that I know the scripture says that the Lord is the lifter up of our heads, but sometimes we need another body next to us to lift up our head. And she was that. She was the hand in my back that kept pushing me to go forward, to keep moving and not quit, not stop, not give up. So it was difficult. It was difficult because the weight that I was carrying trickled down onto her as well.
Right. Hey, let me take a stop right there and hold on a second. All right, so terrible loss for your father, Pastor. That's what Tranisha Patterson just said. So like I said, I've got a couple more questions I'm gonna get into. And then, I do have the ability for some people to call in. If you want to call in and ask a question or make a statement, whatever, I'll throw the number up on the screen. Just let me know. I'm gonna get into the second half of it and try to get through it rather quickly. I do apologize for the technical issues and whatnot, but hey, it's not NBC and ABC television and all of that. But do check out the I'm imagining there's some of this audio that may not be coming through on this live stream. It on cue. Um, absence of fathers in your community.
I didn't hear. It all broke up. All I heard is fathers in the community.
Messing up a little bit. What I was asking was you gave us information from like an anecdotal situation, just what you observed and what you saw in your neighborhood. I was just wondering, what did you give to like actually looking up some statistics there to support what you observed, just to make it more official? And I'm asking that because anybody else that's trying to write, sometimes we can get bogged down with, I need to include this, I need to do that, I need this detail. And sometimes you just got to go say what.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can.
You okay? Yeah, I've become a reader, and so I've read a lot of literature on the subject, and then my play cousin Google, uh, I called on her pretty regularly, but honestly, I didn't do a lot of extensive. Um, uh, I didn't give a lot of uh, extensive statistic in the book because I didn't want to take it in that direction. I just wanted to give some general statistics so that people could understand the realness of the problem. So yeah, I've read a lot of literature on the subject. The internet is my friend, and then my experiences as a child, as a young man traveling the world, and now my experiences as a pastor and a father. So
Can you hear me, Steve?
I can now. I can now. Did you say something?
I think we're back now.
Okay.
So what would you attribute absent fathers? Why do you think it's so prevalent, or why was it so prevalent then? And I know specifically looking at our community and what happened with the manufacturing industry here in the 90s, early 2000s. Um I know that's part of it. And we also know about the crack era and all that type of stuff. So it's a lot. But what would you attribute the absence of fathers to?
Well, the most primitive answer would be ultimately it's the enemy's number one strategy. In order to have a strong individual, you need you need a strong and solid village. In order to have a strong village, you need strong families. In order to have strong families, you need strong fathers. And so ultimately, the enemy's um, strategy is always to just chop the head off. Because if you chop the head off of the dog, the tail can only do so much wagging. And and so what we've seen is, like you talked about, those systematic institutional efforts in order to destroy uh, black people. Can I be as honest as possible? But not only black people, because fatherlessness is an issue that is no respecter of persons. And I know a lot of people don't like to acknowledge it, but there are a lot of supporting evidence that says fatherlessness is an issue in every demographic. But when I speak specifically about black people, you talk about starting at the transatlantic slave trade and then all of the institutions of colonialism. And man, my God, that's a whole nother interview where we could talk about that and that alone. And so those are some of the things that contributed to why we are where we are. But again, I personally believe this. You see my family getting in, basketball practice is over. I
I see the
personally believe
superstar.
this, that somebody can imagine it and create it, then we can reimagine it and create something different and something new. And so that's the reason why I'm optimistic, because it is a real problem, but there are real solutions too. And we are that solution.
Gotcha. I know you, like you said, the book came out in early January. It's been out, so it's a few months now. It is March already. Have you received any feedback of
You was breaking up, but I think I caught the gist of what you were saying. Um, I've gotten a lot of feedback, as far in the form of barbershop talk. The one thing I love about this book, um, obviously I'm gonna love it, but I intentionally wrote it in a conversational tone, and so it's palatable even to people who wouldn't consider themselves to be avid readers, or people who really just don't read at all. So there are people who have read the book who normally don't read books recreationally. And I've gotten a lot of feedback, primarily in the barbershop, from people just like that, who felt like I was telling their story, and who actually gained some wisdom from it and some healing from it. And I've had people reach out to me in different ways, and so I've gotten a lot of positive feedback. I know there's probably some negative feedback, but it hasn't come to me. But I have gotten a lot of positive feedback, and but I am planning something though, and I want you to hear about this, Wood, because you gonna need to be a part of this. I'm planning um, I'm planning a roundtable where I can bring men from different backgrounds, different experiences, with or without a father, and we're gonna come together. We're gonna talk about not only the book, but talk about our own personal experiences. You know, how we see fatherhood, the good, the bad, the ugly, and then where do we go from here? And so I'll probably have a better assessment of how the book has actually impacted people once we sit down and have that intimate conversation.
I'm there. I'm curious. Have you had an absent father so far that's read the book and heard something from that individual?
I've had plenty of absent fathers who have read the book. I have a few people to reach out with feedback from this perspective. And I don't think I really touched on it that much in the book, but I did touch on it a little. is that, and let me say it this way, some children are fatherless and it ain't got nothing to do with their father. Sometimes fatherless circumstances are created when the relationship between the mama and the daddy goes south. And because the mama has all of the chips, she weaponizes the children and uses them as a means to hurt the father. You know what I'm saying? And so I've had feedback from some fathers broken, not because they were fatherless, but broken because they feel like their children are going to grow up identifying with that fatherless experience, not because they don't want to be involved, but because for so many reasons they aren't allowed to be involved. And so that really breaks my heart. You know, you have so many children experiencing fatherlessness. The last thing we need to do is create that experience in children who don't have to have that experience.
Gotcha. I thought you were very responsible in how you set this up. That you weren't writing books. You weren't writing the book to target any fathers, who may have been absent. You weren't going after any of them. You didn't spend a lot of time with that more than working through the situation. So, you didn't,
Yeah.
condemn anybody or, toot anybody off at the beginning of the book by doing that.
Yeah. And I was intentional about
One
that
thing,
because
can you hear me?
I can now. Yeah, I can hear you. It went out a little bit. Go ahead. What were you saying? What's the last thing you said?
So one thing that I just wanted to credit you for doing that, how you handled that. So you didn't turn off any, it wasn't off-putting to any readers at the beginning of the book, so they don't stick around to get the message. What I want you to do, though, compare the younger Steve, who the female classmate challenged to start wrestling because you were making fun of someone who got handled on the mat, I'm assuming. Compare that Steve that reacted to that challenge and
Just start messing up too. You was breaking up, but I think I got the gist of what you said. Compare the young me to the now me when it comes to how those situations shaped me because of that challenge. Are you watching?
We can hear you. We can hear you.
I don't know if I'm here, but I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. I'm gonna answer his question because I feel like I knew what he said. And here's the answer to that question. If y'all can hear me, if y'all can't hear me, then I'll answer it again. So here's the answer. I'm the same old me. I'm the same old Steve. I'm the same old person. The difference, though, is that my passion for proving that person wrong or my passion for overcoming that challenge is now purposeful. That's the only difference. I'm the same person, but now my passion has purpose. Then whatever you challenged me to do, I was going to do it, good, bad, or indifferent, just because you can't tell me what I can't do. But now I'm not reckless. It's a useful passion. And so when you tell me what I can't accomplish, when you tell me what I'm not able to overcome, all you've done is challenge me to prove that I can do anything if I focus and I put my attention to it. So I'm the same person, man. It's just now my passion got purpose connected to it. The last thing I'm gonna interrupt you. I'm sorry because you're breaking up a little bit, but I'm just on the roll right now. The last thing he should have done was told me that I couldn't do it. That was the last thing he should have done. Because if the Lord told me to do it, and then you tell me I can't do it, that's almost like confirmation. Because the enemy is a liar, always. And the enemy don't never want you to think that you can accomplish what God has given you to do. I'm sure you got doubters with whatever it is you've set your mind to do with your broadcast, with your podcast, on the job, in your family, and whatever the case may be. But you can satisfy yourself by accomplishing the very thing somebody told you can't accomplish.
Had to get to the interview that I wanted to get into the most, and what did or how did you interpret it when like your future was what you needed to do was downloaded to you and it involved staying here in Dayton, Ohio versus venturing out like you said it usually was the usual plan at your church. What did it mean to you to be to receive a message to stay local?
Um, well, honestly, it was discouraging initially because I knew he wouldn't accept it because it wasn't the norm. And sometimes people have a heart. Humans are creatures of habit, and some of us more so than others. And I knew that that was breaking a habit or a tradition. It wasn't breaking a rule. It wasn't breaking biblical principle. It was just breaking the tradition and the rule that had been followed, as far as he was concerned. So it discouraged me because I felt like if I did what God called me to do, I would ultimately once again end up a fatherless son. And that fear proved to be true. And so that was the way I processed it initially. But then secondly, I began to really, contemplate what is it that God is trying to do. And I embraced my role because honestly, I love my city. A lot of people say, oh man, and people probably do this wherever they from. They can't wait to get out of Dayton. I'm moving, I'm leaving, I'm relocating. They act like the rest of they can go somewhere else and magically, life is going to be better for them. But I'm committed to Dayton. I love my city. I love the people of this city. I love the possibilities in this city. And so I feel like I'm a son of the city. And if anybody going to invest in it, it should be me.
You broke up quite a bit there at the end. You want to repeat any of that? Because I think that was important. Why it was important to be local.
Yeah, like I said, I feel like I'm a son of the city. And a lot of people, they act like, relocating is some big major thing. And one day they go to a new city and magically life is going to be better for them. But if you change locations but don't change mentality, you just take all your old problems to a new place. For me, I'm a son of the city. I love this city. I love the people of this city. I love the possibility that this city has. And so I feel like as a son of this city, you know, who better to invest in this city than me? And so ultimately I embraced my role. I ain't trying to go nowhere. I'm here for Dayton. And I'm putting Dayton on my back, and wherever I go, Dayton going with me.
Okay. I only got one more. I'll throw the phone number up there if anybody wants to call in and say anything or ask anything. You get to the end of the book and encounter this second spiritual father. Became
I think I done lost you. I don't know if y'all lost me. The interviewer done dropped off. Y'all pray he come back on here. I know he got some questions. I'm happy to be here with y'all to interview. I'm gonna take over the interview from here and interview myself, and then I'm gonna ask myself a question. Then I'm gonna answer it. Oh, never mind. No, I ain't. He back. You back with us, Wood?
I'm sorry, man. Let me try to do something real.
You back with us?
Hold on real quick.
Yes, sir. Told y'all I was gonna interview myself.
So the last thing I did.
Yes, sir.
Hear me?
I can now. I can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Walk. I'm just trying to be short. Walk us through that. What made you comfortable with going back down that path after it blew up in your face in the manner that it did? What do you think allowed you to handle that in a mature way and accept that? Because I think it was needed for you to do what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. Well, I'm a man of principle. I believe, rules change, people change, principle never changes. Principles are truths that do not change or adjust. The truth is just the truth. You know what I mean? And that principle, in this specific, as it relates to this specific question, is something that I teach my church and frankly anybody that'll listen to me. And I believe every leader need a leader. Every pastor need a pastor. And then I also believe every father needs a father. And everybody needs somebody that they can be accountable to. The person that wants to instruct but is not willing to be instructed is a dangerous person. So because of that principle, I was always open to the idea. I was just closed-minded because I didn't think that there would ever be another father who would handle me properly. You know what I'm saying? But the Lord kind of spoke to my spirit and gave me a natural example so that I could understand how it was possible spiritually. And it's like if I was born into a family and say my parents were deceased, God forbid, and then I get put into a foster home or I get adopted, and another father and mother take me in and truly fulfill those roles. They may not be my biological father, but he can still father me. He can still provide what a father offers. And so that opened me up and made me consider it, because honestly, I believe that our character, our gifts, our talents, our passion, our person is actually perfected through serving somebody else. You know, you just cannot undervalue the blessing of accountability and discipleship. One of the things that's wrong with the world is you got people running and they don't know where they're going. But if they would slow down long enough to get a tour guide, they would get to their destination much more quickly and without all the pit stops and without all the obstacles. So those are the reasons why I was open to it, but it had to be the right person and it had to be a God ordained relationship. And that's what I ultimately found.
Got you. I know you said some important stuff there, and I'm sitting here getting upset that we having these technical difficulties tonight. Like I said in my favorite interview that I was looking forward to.
We gonna do it again.
This is my very last question. That's what I'm saying. We're gonna have to, but and I apologize to everybody sincerely. With you pastoring, I just wonder, man, I encounter some strong-minded people, people with bad reasoning that it's not even difficult to tell that it's bad. I'm like, some stuff I'm like, you should be embarrassed to have said what you just said. So how was that a challenge for you? Because you said you talked about that in the book about people coming in not wanting to be led or taught, guided. Where does this rank in like the most challenging parts of your ministry?
Where does me being father rank,
No,
or where does me being a father rank?
I'm just talking about, is this a challenge for you?
You were breaking up, but I think I know what you were saying, and I'm gonna say it, and then at the end you tell me if I'm wrong. I believe you were asking me, sometimes people not responding to my leadership, or maybe being unteachable, or not being willing to absorb what I'm attempting to invest in them. Where does that rank in the difficulty of me pastoring? Is that what you were asking? I feel like I was following your train of thought. Maybe we can type the question. Can we type it?
I'm doing it.
Okay. You type the question, I got an answer for you. And then the crazy thing is, when you type it, I can hear you. Let's see.
Did you see it?
I don't see it yet. Let me see if it pull up on a different screen.
As that's coming up, I'm just asking, has it been difficult with men coming into the church to accept your leadership?
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I think I was kind of along the lines, but that's a little more specific. Um, I don't know how difficult it has been. What I will say is sometimes I wrestle with how effective my leadership is. Sometimes I wrestle with whether I'm actually making a connection with the people I'm attempting to lead and disciple. Um, sometimes I wrestle with, am I truly in the right classroom yet? Or like in high school, you would go to homeroom just for a little while, but that really wasn't your teacher. Um, and the reason why sometimes I wrestle with those questions and I'm not really sure about the answer, is every leader, every teacher is looking to see the quality of their lesson in the behavior of the student. But I also have to understand from a teacher's perspective that every student learns at a different speed. Every student absorbs the lesson differently, and every student responds to that lesson different. And so I think that's a major question. And honestly, man, we could spend a whole session just talking about the dynamics of that. But I think some men are drawn to me because I'm genuine and because I'm fair. I'm firm, but I'm fair. And I think some men resist my leadership because I look young, because men typically have the kind of mentality that I'm a man like you a man, and so sometimes men are not as coachable, if I can use that term. Men are not as susceptible to discipleship. Um, and so that's definitely a challenge because you can't have a strong church without strong men. And don't get me wrong, women have been the backbone of every successful organization the world has seen, including the church. However, you need both components in order to be full and whole and to fulfill your greatest potential and live up to your capacity. And so the dynamic of men in ministry is something that must be mastered, but I don't feel I've mastered it.
All right. I'll put the number up here. Like I said, if somebody wants to call in, we can give it a shot. Like I said, I do apologize. Usually at night, the internet signal is better. I know we've had problems in my neighborhood, but this is the worst that it's ever been. But
that's because we need to do it again, Wood. That's all.
It's funny you mentioned that because
and I hate that I didn't hear you because I know you were saying something.
Real quick. What I was gonna say was I was watching a special a couple weeks ago on the beginnings of the quote unquote black church. And it was black church, quote unquote. And the membership or the percentage of the women represented was like 80 or 90% of the church. And that just blew me away.
It's still that to this day, but that's not new. You can see that in the Bible. The scripture talks about Jesus on one occasion. He fed 5,000 men, not including women and children. The reason why the writer specified how many men were in attendance is because it was a rarity to see men in that number to hear what thus saith the Lord. And if you had 5,000 men, Jewish historians and scholars estimate that there were probably about 15 to 20,000 people there. So that's not a new, phenomenon. That's always been the case. And I'm not trying to beat up on the brothers, but women have always been teachable. Women have always been postured in a way where they were willing to receive. Men have not always been that way because of the way we're wired. We're wired to give. And so sometimes we don't know how to compartmentalize and actually receive as well. It takes a strong man to be led by another man.
Understood. Well, any final words, man? Like I said, I'm getting a little frustrated with this, with the technical stuff and not be talking. But any final words, man?
I want to say to you, I appreciate this opportunity. I didn't get to tell you in the beginning, man. I'm honored that you allowed me to be a guest. You called me to your platform and gave me the chance to share my heart concerning this subject. Man, I've watched you over the years as a man and as a husband, and I've watched your growth in your profession, or let me say in your pursuit of this of mastering this profession. And man, you got it. You got it. Like I told you before, I told you in private, and I want to say it publicly. You got a gift, man, and all you got to do is keep chopping, and eventually that tree gonna fall. And so, thank you, man, for having me on your show. I'm indebted to your graciousness. Thank you, and thank you, man. And shout out to everybody that's in the chat. Shout out to everybody that supported the book. If you want to get it, www.stevesaucerministries.com. Thank you to my church and those people who so faithfully support what I do and what God is doing through me. And lastly, and most importantly, thank you to my wife and my munchkins, two of them in the back seat right now, for being willing to share me and being willing to share me with the world. And so, man, thank you for your time. Thank you for this opportunity. And thank you to everybody that's supporting.
Finishing this thing up, do you think there'll be a second book? Any ideas on another topic, or just even taking on that task again?
I got a series of books. When you do it
Okay.
once, you can do it again. And honestly, in some areas, I really felt like I held back a lot because I wasn't the only one being vulnerable in this book, and I had to be conscious of that. But my mama was made vulnerable by this book. My granny was made vulnerable by this book. My family, the people that I love, they were also made vulnerable because of this book and this story. And so there's a series of books that speak to different components of the family structure. I got a letter to my mama. Man, me talking to absentee fathers, me speaking from the perspective of now being a father. It's a series of books, man, and they're gonna keep on coming till the Lord take me to heaven.
Hear you. One other thing I was gonna mention really quickly. That's great. Like I said, I thought it was I thought it was some parts in there, like you said, where you did pull back for various reasons. But like I said, I gotta credit you, man, for sharing a lot of that. Because a lot of men would try to conceal a lot of that and not share that they were that vulnerable, and for the reasons that you state now of why you sought out these father figures and to help you out. Like I just see a lot of men who don't want to accept guidance, and steady just not going in the right direction, and just want to continue on doing it themselves. And a lot of times we just got to let those individuals go. So I just was amazed in reading the story. You said you were intentional about this, and a lot of people can't.
Yeah, man. Honestly, I believe the man that is not willing to admit he got a problem is a man that'll never fix it. And a part of our problem as men is that we've been trained by the world to be tough and be okay. And so we've never got an opportunity to really heal, because healing requires transparency and vulnerability. You know what I'm saying? Healing makes us fragile. It get worse before it get better. Even when you take medicine, we don't like it because it's nasty, but the end result is it'll make us better. And that's the way that I see oftentimes men when it comes to us approaching our own healing. Is first we got to be strong enough to admit we need to heal from some stuff, and not be afraid to admit that we ain't got it all together, because that's what we like to do. We like to make the world think we got it all together because we've been trained by the world to act like we got it all together. And any sign that you don't have it all together, you must be soft, you must be weak, you must be something other than a man. But the truth is, a man, I got on a pink hoodie right now. You see this? You can get this from Steve Saucer Ministries too. I got on a pink hoodie right now, and they say that real men wear pink. Well, I say real men wear whatever they want, because a real man is not going to internalize the opinions of other people. You know what I'm saying? When I expose my own weaknesses and vulnerabilities, if you think I'm soft, that's on you, because ain't nothing soft about me. Ain't never been soft. And I'm going to continue being exactly what I am, but I'm going to be the best version of me because I was willing to admit that there was something about me that needed to be better. If we had that kind of mentality, we'll all be better.
I want to read this to you real quick and get your let you speak on it from now. But you put this thing in here. You said your first spiritual father. You said, "Do you want to be saved or not?" Completely taken aback, I indecisively answered, "Yes, sir." He then said, "Then you need to act like it. Considering the state you're in, you can't afford to miss any services." Um, was that said in private or in front of others?
Ha! No, it wasn't said in private. It was open, out in the open. Hey, it's like I'm giving it to you. That was that kind of medicine. No, it wasn't said. But you know what? I'm a Marine, and I experienced that kind of interaction in the Marine Corps. And I believe that the Marine Corps prepared me for that season of my life, because that's the kind of man that he was. Wasn't no in private. Nah, he just said it openly. And guess what? I needed it. That's why I don't begrudge that experience completely, because I needed what and how he was. I needed what he had and how he was giving it so that I could be who I am today. I believe this. I believe God is a master strategist, and I believe his plans always work. And so ain't nothing that I've experienced been for loss. All of it has intimately added to who I am today, including those hurtful experiences. Yeah, man. Yeah, he said that in the open, in front of the world.
Hey, also, one
Now,
thing that's been
I don't do that. Some things we learn from our fathers. Some things we learn what not to do. Some things we learn what to do. And some things we make adjustments and do it a little bit in the middle. And so I don't have that kind of approach. My approach is I praise in public and I correct in private, unless you are just outrageous in public, then I would have to address it. But generally speaking, I praise in public and I correct in private. He was not that way. He might praise you in private, but he gonna correct you in front of the world.
I did want to touch on one thing that's been very disappointing for me as a getting into different stages of my adulthood, my manhood. There's never really been any positive reinforcement or like no acknowledgement from other men about me being a husband and being, how long I've been married, or any compliments whatsoever about me in being a husband. And I didn't expect that, you know. And so I'm just wondering with you, and my parents might have been married 11 years, I want to say. I'll be 18 this year, I think. 18 years married. I don't even know how we got here, but we're here. Um, how has it been kind of figuring this thing out for you? Since you didn't have nothing to model, how you would approach this. How have you gone about that?
Well, let me say first, congratulations on 18 years, man. Uh, we'll have 15 years come September, so we're a little bit behind you. I'm chasing your coattail. Um,
Congratulations.
and also, I think oftentimes men have a little trouble complimenting other men, and that speaks to a greater problem. I touched on it earlier, but we don't have time to really deal with it. Is sometimes we feel like complimenting another man is soft, so in our attempt to be tough, we feel like we can't do that. But that's a whole nother problem. A lot of it comes from some of it are the symptoms and byproducts of this subject of this book, but we don't have time to cover it today. But uh, how am I working through it? Well, I'm working through it, and I'm saying that with all sincerity and with all seriousness and with all love, because my wife's sitting right next to me. But I'm working through it. I feel like I'm learning how to be a better husband as the years go by. I'm a better husband today than I was it 2009, the year that we got married. I'm a better husband today than I was then. But here's what I tell people as it relates to marriage. You got to be committed to the institution of marriage, even above your commitment to that person. Because if you're only committed to that person, sometimes that person can let you down, and that person might not live up to your expectations in a season. They might do something that give you the right to leave, you know. But if you're committed to the institution of marriage, what that does is that gives them enough grace to fix and right whatever their wrongs are, so that y'all can be reunited and go forward. Because if you see people that have been married 15 years and 18 years and 25 years and 30 years, that's not two people that ain't had challenges and ain't made mistakes and ain't gone through ups and downs. You're looking at two people who have been committed to staying married. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the first task is honoring marriage. And when you honor marriage, you'll get enough time to learn how to honor your spouse and love your spouse the right way. So I'm working through it every day, man. Pray for me. I'm trying to do my best. I don't do everything right. I don't say everything right. But I'm trying. We have some real high highs, and we've had some real low lows. And then sometimes we float in the middle. It's gonna break up when I'm talking about marriage because my wife's sitting here looking at me, making sure I don't say nothing wrong.
How to be a father, being that you only had your friend's father to in that relationship to look at. So how has it been becoming a father? And then, second time around, and then, having a son.
Man, that's loaded, man. Again, that could be we could do that in one interview alone. But something I always said when I was a kid, and I didn't know that I would hold on to it even to this day as a 42-year-old man, is my daddy taught me one thing, and that was not to be nothing like him. And so that has been cemented in my heart, and that motivates me at every turn. And the most valuable thing to me about being a father is knowing that my kids want me to be involved in stuff that they're doing. You know what I'm saying? And then secondly, they don't know nothing else, and that alone is breaking the mold from what I experienced. You know what I'm saying? One of my daughters here that's in basketball, I'm gonna talk about her, and she gonna say something about it when I get off of this video. But yesterday I was exhausted. I was frustrated I was frustrated, had been frustrated, and I was exhausted. And I just got home and I laid down. And she came in there and she said, "Daddy, will you come play basketball with me?" And initially I said no, because I was frustrated. I had been carrying frustration for over a day at that point. And not only was I frustrated, I was tired. So I said no. And then something hit. I know it was the Lord, but you know how we say something spoke to me. And I said, you know what, never mind. And I got up and I went and I played basketball with her. And the reason that I did it is because it's a privilege to be involved in your children's lives. It's a privilege for them to even want you to be. And so I didn't want that moment to pass. And so that's been the most rewarding component of being a father, is being involved in their life and them not knowing anything different. Like, I don't understand. I cannot go months without seeing them or days without seeing them. If I kick them out and take them to their granny's house to spend the night, I'm missing them already until they get home, and then they get on my nerves again. But it's a different story. My son is a whole nother story altogether. So you really don't want me to talk about that, because that's me seeing me all over again. But the difference is it's a better version of me. And so in every way. And I see it. And not only do I see it, I believe God for it. And that is going to be my life's mission for not just him, but for all of my munchkins, that they can stand on my shoulders and see farther than me, go farther than me, do more than me, and not have to work as hard as I did.
Man. We'll do it again and make sure that some important stuff gets out there the right way.
Sound good. Sound good. Again, Wood, I appreciate it, man. You the man. We've been saying we was gonna do it for a long time. We finally did.
All right. Hey, look, like I said, I apologize immensely. This is the worst audio, or that's the worst Wi-Fi that I've ever had since I've been doing this. And like I said, this was a very important discussion for me. So me and Steve will really back, and we'll get that in. But thanks, Tranisha Patterson. Appreciate that. I do appreciate everybody that tuned in. I'm gonna see what I can make of the audio to put that put the podcast out there, and then I can definitely get that link to Steve if it's, like I said, if it's something that I can allow people to hear. I'm a little particular about my audio, so I'm a little concerned that some of that isn't usable, but we'll get to it. But anyway, like I said, the Amazon link to the book was in the description of the live stream, so definitely you can check it out there and buy it. I think it was like $19 or something with tax. Good message, great message. So I don't know why anybody wouldn't. And this is just talking to anybody that's not on here, Steve personally supporting, and enjoy that experience with him. Like I said, I don't have a lot of relationships where men share a whole lot of important stuff. We talk about what Jay-Z did, what Jay-Z is doing, or what LeBron did, or whoever else, but to address the thing challenging us the most. And sometimes it's just like you're out here completely on your own with a lot of stuff, with a lot of important stuff. And like Steve said, it's people committing suicide every day because they just don't have a good support system and whatnot. So I will say that I've always appreciated my relationship with Steve, because he's probably one individual. I don't even know if I could put another 4 around him, but most of the times that I've gone to the barbershop over the years when Steve was cutting my hair, he was one individual where I was able to have a substantive conversation. That's not always the case, and that's sad to say. And I know today, I really don't bother talking with a lot of cats, because year after year after year after year, and to be 45 now, and for the overwhelming majority of a lot of my conversations not amount to much, to rarely come away with anything actionable, it's just a waste of time talking. So it's just rare to really interact with another person, with another man, and like I said, that conversation to lead to something productive. And as you get older, you have a lot of different things that you need to get right, that you need to fix, that you're trying to accomplish. I've been tasked this summer with putting an extension on our deck on the house. I don't have waste to another cat about Jay-Z or the president or whatever. Like, you get to a point where you know what it is you're trying to do, and you know who to talk to get those things done, and you just try to you try to make your living more efficient and whatnot. So I just think it's a shame that we can't reach out often to individuals to help us out, or that we can help. You talk to a lot of brothers, you can't even give them a word to help them get going in the right direction, and you just went through what that person is going through, but they don't want to hear it. So it's just been a part of my like I said, becoming older. It's just been a revelation. The relationships aren't what you thought they were. So anyway, for being in my life, and it's always good to link up with the brother. Let me get ready to get on off of here. I do appreciate those of you that rock with the show, and let me get on out of here. Like I always say, though, I end every show. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. With that said, have a great night.